Our first student presenter is Amir Sadegian, and his poster is Tracking the Untrackable, Learning to Track Multiple Cues with Long-Term Dependencies. Amir.
So, hello everyone. There's not much time to talk a lot about the paper, but the idea is I'm going to present a poster about tracking, multi-object tracking. And what multi-object tracking is you have a video, so you have a set of frames, and you want to track multiple people, so assign IDs. So if we have a camera here of you guys moving around, we want to assign IDs to each of you. And the idea of the paper is we use different cues, like appearance of you, or how you walk, your velocity, your direction, or how you guys are gathered. For example, if you're gathered around the table, then we kind of know like how you're positioned across each other. And all of this information are combined using a structure of RNN, which is like the current techniques in computer vision, using deep learning, and we have kind of like the state-of-the-art tracking results on the tracking benchmarks.
Thank you, Amir.
Please come to the poster.
Our next speaker is Ben Braun. His poster is titled Robust Efficient Transactional Memory via Transactional Virtual Memory.
Sorry for the long title. So multi-threaded programming is nothing new. Well, let's say we have some threads in a multi-threaded application. An open problem is how to isolate them well. So please come talk to me about our system, Thistle, an in-kernel implementation of transactions to isolate threads while still allowing them to have shared access to memory. Thistle uses transactional virtual memory to give each thread its own address-based consistent view of memory, and some other techniques that I'll talk to you more about if you come see my slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Our next speaker is Berkeley Churchill, Sound Loop Super Optimization for Google Native Client.
So Native Client is a sandboxing technology inside the Google Chrome web browser that allows developers to write their client-side code in C and assembly instead of JavaScript for performance gains. And what we did is we built a super optimizer to improve the performance of native client code. The idea is that you can take a native client binary and make random mutations to it and find mutants of the original program that actually perform faster. So the main challenge is making this give you correct answers and then verifying that your answers are correct. So we solved this by using a hierarchy of formal verification techniques and integrating it into the super optimizer itself. So if you want to hear more about that, come see the poster.
Thank you, Berkeley. What's it like being named Berkeley at Stanford?
It's awesome.
It's awesome. Okay, we just wanted to check. Our next speaker is Bill Kuzmal. The poster is titled A PolyLogarithmic Approximation Algorithm for String Alignment.
So I'm Bill Kuzmal. I'm a senior at Stanford. And my research is with Professor Moses Charkar and graduate students Ophir Gary and Mike Kim. So my research is in the area of approximation algorithms, and in particular the problem that I'm interested in is you have two strings, and these strings are related to each other. So maybe there are two DNA sequences that differ by a series of mutations, or maybe there are two sequences of amino acids that encode two proteins with similar structures. And what we want to know is we want to know just how similar are these two strings actually. And in particular, what we'd like is a near optimal sequence of edits taking us from one string to the other. And it turns out when your strings are large, this actually ends up being a pretty computationally difficult problem. And so what our research is on is trying to find asymptotically fast algorithms with theoretically provable accuracy guarantees.
Thank you, Bill. Is it Narayan or Narayanan? Narayanan. Our next speaker is Deepak Narayanan, and the poster is titled Accelerating Model Searching Using Model Batching.
So the problem domain we've been looking at are neural architecture search applications, which basically try to pick the optimal neural architecture given a data set and a broad description of a task. The problem is that these model search workloads typically involve training a number of really similar architectures at once that don't fully utilize the most modern GPU hardware we have available. And so model batch is a system that tries to better utilize these GPUs for this model search type application. And we see that we can achieve speedups of up to 13x by doing some of these compiler optimizations. If you want to learn more, come see me at my poster.
Thank you, Deepak. Our next speaker is Enzo Bussetti. The poster is titled A Non-Parametric Multi-Period Model for Time-Stamped Data.
Yeah, how do I? Hello, everybody. So today I'm presenting a project I did with Professor Boyd here at Stanford on modeling timestamp data, things like temperatures or prices in electricity markets. And we look for models that depend on periodic features of time, things like hour of the day, day of the year, season of the year, that take on a finite set of value, meaning that they're discrete. And we basically fit a different value for any combination of features. So we fit the most general possible function of these time features. And we use cyclic regularization to constrain the model complexity. So we don't need to have assumptions of sort of how the data is structured. And for example, here's a little prediction of tides, of level of water tides. And this depends on phase of the moon, day of the year, and time of the day. And it's preliminary, but we almost match the state-of-the-art prediction.
Thank you very much, Enzo. Our next speaker is Giovanni Capagna. The poster is titled Share Data with Fine-Grained Control in Natural Language.
Access control for personal data nowadays is dominated by large companies such as Facebook that own your data and give you all or nothing access to your data, and they are monopolies. And when we think of virtual assistants like Google Assistant and Alexa, they also have an opportunity to be monopolies, but they also give us an opportunity for better sharing, because now we can express this fine-grained access control in natural language. So Alice wants to share a security camera with her dad. She doesn't need to say no, never, or yes. Always she can say only if I'm not home. And we have a system that can convert natural language into executable access control and verify them formally with security guarantees. And we have shown that people are much more willing to share when we're given fine-grained access control they can understand in natural language. And for details, can see the poster.
Thank you, Giovanni. Our next speaker is Huang. The poster is High Performance Cloud Framework Control Plane.
So one trend we noticed about cloud computing is nowadays people are running faster and faster computations with optimized codes, in-memory computation, and high scalability. But there is a system problem we find, which is we run the same application as I show here with more and more nodes. The computation time per node decreases, but the actual execution time increases because of the system overhead denoted in the red part. So we identify the bottleneck and try to design a system to solve the problem. And also by solving that problem, we are being able to run some very novel applications like some scientific simulation applications. So if you are interested, please come to my poster. Thank you.
Thank you, Huang. Our next speaker is Henry Kim. The poster is called Arachnia, Core Aware Thread Management.
Hi, folks. This is joint work with Jacqueline Spicer, Chen Li, and Peter Kraft. My advisor is John Osterhout. So Arachnia is all about trying to improve core utilization in the data center, and we do that with two primary tricks. First, we use threading in user space, which is much faster than kernel context switches, and we also dedicate cores to applications. Come to the poster for more details on the benefits and the details.
Thank you, Henry. Our next speaker is Weezy Mao. Did I say that vaguely correctly? Almost correct. And the poster is titled A Fast Algorithm and Hardware Platform for Object Detection from Video.
So today I'm going to present ski computations by a hierarchy of detectors. So basically we want to accelerate with object detection problem in the video. So the problem is that to capture a video stream is really cheap, but to process it, for example, to do object detection is really hard. And so we would like to exploit the locality in the video streams. By locality, I mean, for example, take a look at the 2 frames at the bottom. So the blue bounding box are the existing objects, which has a little offset from the last frame, and the yellow objects are the new frames. So our intuition is that we only need to validate and calibrate the old objects instead of detect them from every frame. So we propose a detector hierarchy similar to the memory hierarchy and explore the locality. Thank you.
Thank you, Weezy. Our next speaker is Jasmine, who. The poster is titled Smaller Than Small, Probing Living Cells with Chip-in Cell Wireless Sensors.
So our group is working on putting extremely small wireless chip sensors inside individual living cells. Just as shown in these videos, the chips can go into the cells and the cells can happily divide afterwards. Cells are the smallest functional units of mammals, and being able to closely monitoring them over a long period of time may allow us to reveal greater insight of how diseases evolve at such a small scale, and we may be able to initiate treatments, personalized and targeted, as soon as possible. If you want to learn more about how the chip goes into the cells and how the sensing platform actually works, please come to my poster.
Thank you, Jasmine. Our next speaker is Jingshan, and her poster is titled Mapping Mouse Brain Slice Sequence to a Reference Brain Without 3D Reconstruction.
In mammals, neurons project throughout the brain and modulate diverse functions. To study the actual neural network, we use histology to observe the brain tissues at a cellular level. However, this procedure is invasive and breaks topology due to cutting. Through image registration between a 3D model and histology, we can establish spatial correspondence and recover the original topology, which facilitates comparison and integration of different experimental results. We develop a framework that automatically builds pixel-wise correspondence between a sequence of 2D histological slices and a 3D reference volume. Since the accuracy of our framework is similar to an expert neuroscientist, we have successfully used our method to map multiple brain data sets to a reference volume, making multi-brain data analysis possible and accurate. To learn more on how we did it, come to our poster.
Thank you, Jane. Our next speaker is Julia Belk. Her poster is titled Clever Use of Tiny Data for the Design of New and Better Medicines.
Hi, everyone. So my research seeks to use computers to make predictions about structural biology. So structural biology is interested in a very simple question, which is for the tiny molecular machines that make up our cells, like proteins, what is their structure? Or what is the three-dimensional coordinates of all of their atoms? And there's sort of two reasons this is very difficult. The first is that these things are tiny. So for reference, right now Intel is shipping 14 nanometer feature sizes. Right? The radius of a hydrogen atom is 120 picometers. So point one is biomolecules are way smaller than the smallest things that we're using in computers. And point two, computers are in the solid phase, which is extremely convenient. All of these proteins and other biomolecules are in the liquid phase. So they're just bumping into each other in a completely disorganized mess, which makes the whole thing very difficult to access experimentally, and so it'd be very useful if we could make computational predictions about these things. So come to my poster to learn more.
Thank you, Julia. Our next speaker is Karthik Ganesan. The poster is titled QED Effective Post-Silicon Validation and Debug.
So as many of you guys in the audience may know, verification consumes about 80% of the total cost in designing today's electronic systems. One of the difficulties with using conventional techniques like hardware emulation or hardware simulation to catch bugs is illustrated here, which is that the error detection latency can be billions of cycles, so it may not even be possible to observe the effects of these bugs. Our technique is called QED, which stands for Quick Error Detection. It's a family of tests that works for either pre-silicon verification or post-silicon validation. It can work for any accelerator, any processor core, any uncovered components, any logic bug, any electrical bug. Some of the numbers are shown here, but more importantly, we have a live demo at our poster where you guys will be able to see it actually in action and see some of the actual bugs that have been uncovered. So come through.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Luke Xiao. The poster is titled Fondeur, KBC from Richly Formatted Data.
Right, so many of you have heard the phrase, data is the new oil. And we've been able to leverage that data from unstructured text really well already. But when it comes to richly formatted data, like this transistor datasheet, there's troves of this information trapped in this richly formatted data that is really hard to get to. Specifically, with richly formatted data, you have unique problems. For example, point one, the information that you want to extract is not in a sentence or a paragraph. Suddenly it's spanning a page or hundreds of pages in a document. Point two, to understand what these values mean, you need more than just textual information. You need other modalities like visual, structural, tabular information as well. And point three, as you can imagine, there are hundreds or thousands of ways to express the same data. And so we have intense data variety in both formatting and style. So come talk to me to learn about Fondeur, which is the first knowledge-based construction system for richly formatted data, where we use a machine learning approach to tackle these challenges. One of our primary contributions is we allow users to, it's a unique programming model where we allow users to specify weak supervision over each of these modalities, and then we use data programming to denoise the supervision and generate training data for a machine learning model. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Our next speaker is Maria Dimakopoulou. The poster is titled Estimation Considerations in Contextual Bandits.
Hello. Part of my PhD research focuses on machine learning.
Want to advance the slide? Thank you.
On personalized policies. And we've seen that when we apply contextual bandits, which is the framework of machine learning for personalized policies, in practice, we see that algorithms that perform equivalently theoretically, such as UCB and Thompson sampling, will have large performance differences when applied in personalized healthcare, education, articles recommendation. So we study a new consideration of contextual bandits, which is the way exploration is conducted in the present affects the bias and variance of potential outcome model estimation in subsequent stages of learning. So we combine balancing methods from causal inference with parametric and non-parametric statistical methods to propose new contextual bandit algorithms, and most importantly, propose insights on what will work well in practice and why. What will work well when you have lack of fairness in your training sample, what will work well when you have model mismatch, which is quite frequent in applications in healthcare. So our research aims to give guidelines on anyone who wants to efficiently use contextual bandits in practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Our next speaker is Michael Fisher. The poster is called ImagineNet, Dynamically Stylizing of GUIs.
Hi, everyone. Today with many GUIs, it's sort of a one-size-fits-all type of thing. So you get a website or an app on your phone, and that's it. We imagine the world in slightly a different way, where end users have the ability to customize their interfaces. So currently there are some apps that do this, but they're very fragile and hard to build. So we model image customization on the GUI as an image transformation problem. When you do that with traditional techniques, what happens is the GUI becomes very beautiful but not very functional. So to fix this problem, what we do is we introduce a structural loss component, which allows you to still transfer the style of one image. And you'll see on here we have various 6 images, 6 styles, and the outputs. And what this allows you to do is still transfer the style of the image, but still maintain the functionality of the GUI.
And what I think is most interesting about this project is that you're not just getting the GUIs, you're not just redoing GUIs as they exist today. You're creating GUIs that exist that are sort of new and different from what any human can create. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Our next speaker is Noriaki Hiroshi. The poster is titled GoNet, a semi-supervised deep learning approach for traversability estimation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Noriaki Hiroshi.
Noriaki is a visiting scholar.
Yes. I'm not a student. I'm visiting scholar from Toyota Central. Today, I'd like to present GoNet, a semi-supervised deep learning approach for traversability estimation. In our method, we capture the environment by using a fisheye camera and decide whether the robot can go through or not to avoid the collision and falling. So key idea of our method is shown on the left side. Our method generates an image, and if the generated image is close to the input image, we can decide the traversable. And if not, it will be non-traversable. And another contribution of our poster is to provide the new data set from the Stanford campus. So if you're interested in our research work, please come to my poster. Thank you.
Thank you, Noriaki. Our next speaker is Ofer Gary. The poster is titled Min-Cost Bipartite Matching with Delays.
All right, so the motivation for this work is ride-sharing platforms such as Uber and Lyft. And the question we study is how to make matches in these platforms, how to match passengers to drivers. And to see why this is interesting, consider the following example. So in this example, initially, we have one passenger and one driver, and there's some distance between them, and we need to make a decision whether to match them or not. And the reason why this decision is difficult is because we don't know the future, and there are two different things that can happen. If we decide to match them, one possible future is that another new driver will arrive right next to the passenger after we match them, and then we would have preferred to wait and match the passenger to the new driver. On the other end, if we wait forever, another possible future is that no new drivers will arrive, and then the waiting itself is costly. So we see that there is some inherent trade-off between waiting for more arrivals and the cost of waiting, and this is trade-off with what we explore in this work, and I'd be glad to tell you more at the poster. Thank you.
Thank you, Ofer. Our next speaker is Paris Simonelikis. The poster is titled Algorithmic Techniques for Fast Kernel Computations.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Paris, and I'm a PhD student here. Much of my thesis work with my advisor, Professor Moses Charikar, has been focused on how to design efficient algorithms to accelerate kernel computations. Such computations arise in machine learning and scientific computing and are quite prevalent these days. And if we get efficient algorithms for them, then we can get a lot of downstream algorithms for other applications, such as density estimation or outlier detection. The problem that we study is actually very simple. You have a database of n records, and you have a way to quantify what's the similarity between records in your database. And what you want to compute fast for any query is this kernel density, which is a sum of the similarities within your database. So what we are able to do is provide speedups up to square root of n for these applications where n is the size of the database. And thank you.
Thank you, Paris. Our next speaker is Patrick Goebel. Patrick is a research engineer in Professor Savarisi's group, and Patrick's poster is titled Jack Rabbit.
Hello, thank you. I work with a terrific group of students, visiting scholars, and postdocs on an unbelievably fun project called the Jack Rabbit Project. That's our robot on the left, arrived on Friday. It's a one-of-a-kind, state-of-the-art robot with 3D omnidirectional sensors for the study of social navigation, which we define as mobile robot tasks in crowded human spaces, such as occur in hospitals, grocery stores, or airport terminals. And in order to actually have the robot obey the implicit social rules that we understand and that we obey with each other, such as personal space and not breaking conversational boundaries, we intend to collect an extremely large data set which we will then use to train deep learning networks based on computer vision of detecting and tracking people to build a robot, a deep learning controller for the robot to navigate amongst these crowded spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Our next speaker is Robin Betts. Robin's poster is Automating Identification of Drug Mechanisms, Memory-Efficient Machine Learning on Large Molecular Dynamic Data Sets.
Hi, I'm Robin Betts. I'm a PhD student in the Ron Brewer Lab, and I primarily run molecular dynamics simulations of proteins and drugs using an adaptive sampling framework that uses machine learning to explore what's interesting and ignore what's not. But you have the question of creating models that are interpretable not only by computational experts, but by biologists and chemists who are interested in the actual application. You may have all these cluster assignments on a very large data set with upwards of 2 million samples, but which clusters are important, and how do we interpret these models? I've implemented an automated analysis protocol that requires only a single pass through the entire data set, no post-processing, and computes aggregate statistics that enable fast identification of binding and binding-like pathways for proteins and drugs. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Our next speaker is Seojin Park. Seojin's poster is Exploiting Commutativity for Practical Fast Replication.
Hi, I'm Seojin Park. I'm advised by John Osterhat currently. And the problem I solve is the replication is very widely used for high availability in data centers, but like this replication doubles the latency and drops the throughput. So I actually want to bring it back to the 1 RTT latency. So when I looked at why it took 2 RTT, that the reason is a consistent replication protocol combined consistent ordering requirement and durability requirement together. So I decoupled those 2 requirements and then made the replication to complete within 1 RTT. So that's it.
Thank you, Seojin. Our next speaker is Shumik Pelkar. The poster is titled Weld, a common runtime for data analytics.
Hi, I'm Shomik. I'm a third-year PhD student working with Matej Zaharia, and I work on this project called Weld, which is a system that optimizes data analytics pipelines end-to-end. So this project was kind of born out of the observation that if you have really optimized individual functions in these analytics libraries like Python and NumPy, your performance is still far under hardware limits if you stitch these API calls together into like an end-to-end pipeline. So Weld actually generates code and applies these like classic techniques such as loop fusion and vectorization and parallelization automatically on these end-to-end pipelines and gives some pretty substantial speedups. So if you want to learn more, come see the poster. Thanks.
Thank you, Shomik. Our next speaker is Trevor Standley. Trevor's poster is Image to Mass, Estimating the Mass of an Object from its Image.
In this work, we designed a system. Is this not? Oh, okay.
Perfect, thank you.
In this work, we designed a system capable of estimating the weight of an object using visual information. The system takes an image and an object's size as input. These can be obtained with a depth camera. The system produces an estimate of the object's mass in pounds or kilograms. We collected 2 data sets. The first was collected from Amazon product listing information. After heavy filtering, this data set contains 150,000 items, each with an image, a weight, and a set of physical dimensions. The second data set was collected manually using a camera, ruler, and scale. This data set has 423 images and is used for testing. It turns out that humans are good at this problem, but only intuitively. They require extensive training to become good at putting a number to their intuition. We performed a study on human subjects to quantify their skill. Our best machine-learned model has similar performance to even extensively trained humans. Come see me at the poster session for the details.
Thank you, Trevor. Our next speaker is Vatsal Sharon. The poster is Prediction with a Short Memory.
Hi, everyone. Today I'm talking about the sequential prediction problem. So sequential prediction is the problem of predicting the next observation in a sequence given all the past observations. So it's a pretty fundamental and common problem. For an example, think of language modeling, where the goal is to predict the next word, given all the words that you've seen so far. In this particular work, we are interested in understanding how much memory do you need, as in how much do you need to remember about the past in order to make a good prediction about the future. And also, what are the sequential prediction problems where you require long-term memory about distant observations in order to make a good prediction, versus problems where you only need to remember the most recent observations to make a good prediction. You can come by my poster to learn more about these results. Thank you.
Thank you, Vatsa. Our next speaker is William Huang. William's poster is Energy Efficient, Abundant Data Computing, the Next 1000X.
Hi, so our poster is about energy efficient computing in the abundant data era. More particularly, our project is called NEXT, which stands for Nano-Engineered Computing Systems Technology. NEXT enables energy efficiency benefits on the order of 1000x, which we quantify as the energy delay product through ultra-dense monolithic 3D integration of logic and memory. And this is for a wide range of memory-intensive applications, such as deep learning. We achieve these massive benefits by leveraging emerging nanotechnologies, such as computing logic based on carbon nanotube transistors, or on-chip non-volatile memories, such as resistive RAMs. The principles of NEXT have been demonstrated in the Stanford Nanofabrication Facility at the chip level, and the results were recently published in Nature 2017. And we'd be happy to take questions at the poster, and we hope you stop by. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, William. Let's thank all of our student presenters.